Good YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, retired Hall of Fame, legendary, iconic, superstar boxer, the man known as Money, 50-0, turned promoter and CEO of Mayweather Promotions, Floyd Money Mayweather. He and his team, Mayweather Promotions CEO Leonard Ellaby, respond to the excuses made by legendary, iconic Filipino superstar boxer, 8-division world champion, Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, after Manny Pacquiao's, what some would say an upset loss to Cuban star, WBA welterweight world champion, Yordenis Ugas. With that said, Yordenis Ugas, he easily outboxed Manny Pacquiao. Yordenis Ugas was a late replacement for undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound for pound fighters in the world, in Errol the Truth Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. 27 wins, no losses, no draws, 21 big wins by way of knockout. Errol Spence Jr. is 31 years of age, stands at 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. We know Floyd Mayweather, he retired 50-0, and one of his victories came at the hands of Manny Pacquiao. 62 wins, 7 losses, now 8 losses, 2 draws, 39 big wins by way of knockout. Manny Pacquiao himself was knocked out 3 times in his career. 42 years of age, stands at 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach. But he lost to Yordenis Ugas, 27 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw. Yordenis Ugas has 12 wins by way of knockout. So he's not a big puncher. 35 years of age, 5'9" with a 69-inch arm reach. So, with that said, Manny Pacquiao was a heavy favorite to beat Yordenis Ugas after Errol Spence had to be pulled from the fight after a routine checkup, a routine pre-fight checkup they spotted detached retina in Errol Spence's left eye, which saw him have to be removed from the fight. That was just 2 weeks before that fight took place. And so Yordenis Ugas was scheduled to be the co-main event on the undercard of Errol Spence Manny Pacquiao. And he was supposed to face Fabian Maidana, younger brother of former welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Marquez El Chino Maidana. That was supposed to be the play because Yordenis Ugas, he replaced Manny Pacquiao as the WBA super champion after Manny Pacquiao defeated former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman July of 2019 for the WBA title. Keith Thurman was unified. He held the WBC and the WBA, but due to inactivity, the WBC stripped Keith Thurman of the belt. Okay, thus the reason why Errol Spence is WBC champion, because Danny Garcia and 2-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Sean Porter, Danny Garcia being a 2-division world champion superstar boxer, they fought for the vacant belt that Keith Thurman won from Danny Garcia and then had to vacate the belt due to inactivity. Sean Porter beat Danny Garcia, and then Errol Spence beat Sean Porter. That's how he's the WBC champion. So with that said, Manny Pacquiao beat Keith Thurman for the WBA title, which saw him become the WBA champion. But a 2-year layoff, the pandemic, Manny Pacquiao was placed as champion of recess. Yordenis Ugas was the regular champion. They elevated him to the super champion. And Manny Pacquiao wasn't happy that Yordenis Ugas was placed as the super champion. And Manny Pacquiao, he claimed the WBA, World Boxing Association president, Gilberto Mendoza, they didn't even inform Manny Pacquiao that this was going to take place. They just gave him a phone call that it was already, the decision was made. And Manny Pacquiao wasn't happy about that, so he stated that Yordenis Ugas wasn't the real champion, and they gave him my belt, and he was going to teach Yordenis Ugas a lesson. Well, Manny Pacquiao was very confident going into the fight, as many people was, that he was going to be victorious, including myself. And Manny Pacquiao was very confident going into the fight with Floyd Mayweather. For 5 years, it was built as the biggest fight in the history of sport of boxing, and it turned out to be just that. But the fight itself wasn't the most exciting because Manny Pacquiao had similar performance against Floyd Mayweather as he did against Yordenis Ugas. The difference is that was almost 7 years ago when they fought, so he was significantly younger than he was going into this fight with Yordenis Ugas. He was 35 years of age, okay? And so with that said, Manny Pacquiao, he lost a fight. He was built as the man to dethrone Floyd Mayweather. He was the guy that was finally going to beat Floyd Mayweather, and it was anything but that. Floyd Mayweather won 10 rounds to 2. If you want to be generous, 9 rounds to 3. He easily outboxed Manny Pacquiao, okay? And Yordenis Ugas was supposed to lose easily to set up a future showdown, unification showdown with Errol Spence. When Errol Spence get healthy, between Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence. And Yordenis Ugas, he easily outboxed Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao has always struggled with pure boxers. That's his Achilles heel. That's always been his Achilles heel, dealing with pure boxers. He lost. He was outclassed badly in his first fight by Eric El Terrible Morales in their first fight. In the second fight, Eric Morales was blown out the fight. Manny Pacquiao stopped him within the fight. And Eric Morales, he started to say that wasn't the same guy. That's when the rumors started to swirl that Manny Pacquiao may have had an unfair advantage, and it picked up from there on. Nonetheless, he was outboxed in that fight. He was badly outboxed by Floyd Mayweather, and once again, he was badly outboxed by Yordenis Ugas. And these are different levels and times in his career, even when he was younger. And so Manny Pacquiao, he stated that the reason he lost to Floyd Mayweather was because he had a torn rotator cuff. And then you had media members backing this. Even today, when this was discussed, you had Stephen Espinoza, you had Leonard Ellaby, okay, and there was a person on the part of Floyd Mayweather saying that Floyd Mayweather was saying the same thing, that he's making up tons and tons of excuses. And then you had ESPN representatives saying that in the fight with Floyd Mayweather, he had a torn rotator cuff. But Manny Pacquiao, he even stated he never had surgery. He stated that he injured the shoulder before the fight, and that the boxing commission wouldn't allow him to get the injections to numb the area so he could go through the fight. Then he stated he injured the shoulder in the fight. And then they had to revisit that. And then he stated, well, he re-injured it in the fight, okay, with Floyd Mayweather, and that's why he was outclassed. But then, in the same token, Manny Pacquiao, he stated he thought he won the fight against Floyd Mayweather. So he was throwing the right hand all night against Floyd Mayweather. He never showed any signs of, pain or grimacing that the shoulder was giving him trouble. And he already stated it wasn't like he could say, well, it was the injections that allowed him to, not feel any pain, because he already stated that they wouldn't allow him to get the injections. So if you weren't allowed to get the injections and you never showed any signs of the shoulder bothering you in the fight, well, then what was the problem? Okay? And so now Floyd Mayweather clearly outboxed Manny Pacquiao, and they came up with tons and tons of excuses. Not to mention, people always say, well, Floyd Mayweather waited him out 5 years too late. Well, Floyd Mayweather asked Manny Pacquiao to take Olympic-style testing, and Manny Pacquiao refused to do it, and he cited he didn't like needles, but we know he had multiple tattoos. So if you didn't like needles, then how could you sit there and get multiple tattoos if you don't like needles? Because simply tattoos is a needle, okay? So, and he sat through multiple tattoos, getting multiple, and then he cited that, well, if he did do the testing, he would be weakening if they tested him right before the fight, because it's random testing. You don't know when they're going to come. So then he stated that he would like to know when they're going to come, so that way he could be prepared. Well, that's the point of it, is for you not to be prepared, so that way if you're doing anything that's outside the lines, you'll be caught. So he ended up postponing the fight for 5 years, but the accountability and the blame landed on Floyd Mayweather's doorstep. So with that said, he was built as the man to beat Floyd Mayweather, and he got in the ring, and it was a similar outing between Yordenis Ugas and Floyd Mayweather against Manny Pacquiao. He just struggles with pure boxers because you can get the timing down, right? He becomes predictable. He struggled with Juan Manuel Marquez, okay? 4-division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer. And Juan Manuel Marquez was dropped 3 times in the first fight and still fought to a draw. And many people say, well, one of the judges scored the round, and they gave him a 10-7 round instead of a 10-6 round, okay? Still, that would be 1 point. That's only 1 point. So outside of the knockdowns, he absolutely did nothing in the fight. Okay? He did nothing in the fight outside of the knockdowns. if 1 point was the difference, the deciding factor, then you have to say the fight went 12 rounds. He knocked him 3 times. He knocked him down 3 times in the first round, and so the fight still went 12 rounds, and that means Juan Manuel Marquez, he won rounds 2 through 12. Okay, so that means he won the entire rest of the rounds, and the only difference was the knockdowns. And in the 2 fights in between that, the knockdowns Manny Pacquiao got over Marquez proved to be the difference in the fights. And in the 4th fight, we know he was brutally knocked out. He was knocked down the first time with a sweeping right hand that, ironically, Yordenis Ugas incorporated in his fight and was landing all night. Manuel Marquez landed that punch, knocked Manny Pacquiao down. Then he countered him and knocked him cold out brutally. And Manny Pacquiao, he cited that Juan Manuel Marquez had an unfair advantage and that he wanted him to have Olympic-style testing. Now, this was prior to him even fighting Floyd Mayweather. He said that Juan Manuel Marquez needed to be tested because he wasn't the same guy. Well, now he wanted Juan Manuel Marquez to have a 5th fight with Olympic-style testing, but this is the same Manny Pacquiao didn't want to take the Olympic-style testing to fight Floyd Mayweather, so you prolonged the Floyd Mayweather fight for no reason. And then in 2015, he ended up having to doing the Olympic-style testing and fighting Floyd Mayweather anyway. So the person that held it up, Floyd Mayweather never changed his stance on the Olympic-style testing. So the person that held up the fight was Manny Pacquiao. Because he said he didn't want to do it, then he ended up doing it anyway. So he should have just did it 5 years earlier, and we could have got that fight 5 years earlier. Okay? And so he felt that Juan Manuel Marquez had an unfair advantage. And now in the fight with Yordenis Ugas and Floyd Mayweather, he said he injured his shoulder. Now he's saying he injured his calf. He had cramps in his legs, and it's from the 2nd round, and he couldn't perform. And then he stated that he would easily outbox Yordenis Ugas if his legs was there and he was younger. Well, if he was younger, so Manny Pacquiao says his legs was the reason he injured his legs and he had cramps in his legs. And if this was back in the days, or if I didn't have the cramps, I would easily outbox Yordenis Ugas. Listen to Manny Pacquiao.
2 legs is cramping. I cannot move. That's why I cannot move around. I can, in early days, I can easily move and outbox him. Manny Pacquiao, but missed.
So you heard what he said. He said, my 2 legs was cramping in my early days. I would have easily outboxed Yordenis Ugas. So Floyd Mayweather, he says, cut the excuses out. You just lost. Plain and simple. Manny Pacquiao is a legend within the sport of boxing. He's an 8-division world champion, and he doesn't need to use these excuses as to why he lost these fights. You just badly lost. You lost to Eric Morales, who was a pure boxer. You lost arguably to Juan Manuel Marquez all 4 times. You lost to Floyd Mayweather and Yordenis Ugas. That style gives you trouble. When you're a style that stands right in front of Manny Pacquiao, like Miguel Cotto did, Oscar De La Hoya did, Antonio Margarito, Barrera, Morales in the 2 second fights, then Manny Pacquiao is going to be very successful. So Floyd Mayweather tells Manny Pacquiao, stop all the excuses, you just lost. And then you have people saying he's still better than Floyd Mayweather. Amazing. That's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
This is Amanda, the real Dio Serrano, and you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.